Welcome to Adobe Illustrator CC 2021 Classroom in a Book, Chapter 10, Organizing Your Artwork with Layers. This is Part 1. So let's go ahead and grab that L10 Start and do a file Save As. Make sure you're in Lesson 10 folder, and let's do a first initial last name, underscore, Adobe Illustrator Classroom in a Book, Chapter 10, as an Illustrator file, and go ahead and say Save. So with this one, we're not really creating something as much as we are manipulating different types of layers in a document that's already been created, which is sometimes a little bit harder. Let's go ahead and make sure we're all starting from the same place by doing Window. Let's go to Workspace and do Reset Essentials. All right, now that we've got that all in the same place, today we're going to work quite a bit with the Layers panel. So if we look at the Layers panel right now, we can go ahead and do the disclosure triangle and see that we've got quite a few different groups within that are making up this element. So let's go ahead and on this layer 1, let's go ahead and rename this layer 1 to be phone body. So by double clicking, we go ahead and make it phone body and hit enter to commit that change. So now we're going to go ahead and create a new layer by going to the plus sign, or used to look like a post-it note at the bottom. And on that new layer, we're going to go ahead and double click, and we're going to go ahead and call it navigation and say enter. And then we're going to do one other way of making a new layer. So we're going to hit either Option or Alt when we hit the new layer button. And it's going to go ahead and open that layer options right away. And let's go ahead and call that phone content and say OK. All right, so now we have multiple layers that we're going to use within this publication. Now we're going to create a sublayer. So think of the phone content as being the parent, and now we're going to make a child layer, which is going to be called footer. So we've got phone content selected. Let's go ahead and go down to the bottom. We've got a create new sublayer. It's like an arrow pointing to the plus sign. And that new layer 4 is going to be called footer. And we can go ahead and click that disclosure to go ahead and hide that so we don't have to see all of those different layers. Let's do a Control S and save what we have so far. Now you can change the size of your layers panel. If you can't see what's going on, you can always come over here with your arrows, make it bigger and smaller. I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger just so you can see kind of what I'm doing today. So now we're going to go ahead and we want to play with some of these different layers. So let's grab our selection tool and grab the Terraform Hikers. So with the Terraform Hikers, we can go to the bottom of the layers panel, hit locate, which is the one that looks like a magnifying glass, and it's going to go ahead and identify the layer that that element is on. So sometimes it makes it easier when you're trying to find different types of elements, want to move them around, to look in that layers panel. Now we also want to add that $145, so let's hit shift and hit 145. Because we want to go ahead and group all those together as its own layer. So now that we've got that, let's go ahead and do a Control or Command G, and it's going to go ahead and make that its own group. So we can see it's now that group. If we do the disclosure, we see it's got the $145. Let's go ahead and name that group description. And hit enter. So now we've got that one. Go ahead and close that phone body for now. We've got description there. So keeping them collapsed is a nice, easy way to make sure that you can actually see what's going on. Let's go ahead and deselect and go out. Let's go ahead and grab that selection tool and grab that Terraform Hikers again. And you're going to see that we're going to get that entire group of content. So if we go to our layers panel, we can see which layer we're on because it's got the little indicator light and it's a little blue box, and we want to go ahead and move just those elements. So rather than having to go in and select all the individual layers, because we have the group, we can grab that selection box and go ahead and move it up to the phone content layer. So let's grab that box and move it up into phone content. So now if we do our drop down for phone content, I now see I've got my description in that group. So it makes it a much easier way to kind of pay attention to moving those elements around. All right, let's go ahead and deselect. And let's grab that disclosure to show what we have on the phone layer, or the phone body layer. All right, so let's look at phone body, let's look at phone content. All right, next thing we're going to do is create some information for our footer. So we wanted to go ahead and take some of this information that's down here at the bottom and put it in that subgroup we had called footer. Oh, I called it gooder. That's even better. Let's change that to footer. All right, so I'm going to grab my selection tool. I'm just going to draw a box around kind of this middle section because I want to make sure I don't accidentally grab those edge elements. All right, so I've got those selected. I've got that add to bag. I've got the rectangle. I can see now on my section over here, I've got some blue selector lights that show me that I've got multiple items selected. So what I'm going to do is click on the first group. I'm then going to go ahead and control click on this one and the other one because we want to make those all one single group. So let's go ahead and drag those up to our footer area. So let's grab that and drag it up to footer. Not sure why I didn't grab all three, but it didn't. All right, so now within footer, I now have all three of those elements, and I have moved them out of content. So now with my disclosure, I can, go ahead and collapse some of those so I don't have to look at all of them at once. So we're just trying to make more sense of all these different layers that we have going on. Let's go ahead and deselect and do a Control S and save what we've got. So maybe we want to be able to view our layer content a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and hit View and Outline. And it's going to go ahead and show us some elements that we may or may not be seeing on our design right now. So right now we can see we've got some icons down here, we've got some buttons that aren't necessarily showing. So we're going to go ahead and play with some of those. I do want you to notice that when you are on some of those different layers, you can tell that we kind of lose the pupil, which tells us we're in outline mode. Let's go ahead and switch back to our normal GPU preview. All right, and let's go ahead and do our phone content layer to reveal what's in there. So we've got our phone content layer. And let's go ahead and click a command or control click on that eye, and it's going to make the outlines for only that layer. So now I've got just that layer has turned into outlines. So it's kind of a nice way to be able to tell what's going on in those things. So we can see our icons. Let's grab our selection tool and grab those mobile icons, kind of select them as a group. And let's make sure we can see where they are in that footer section. So we can see that it's here at the top. Now, if you weren't able to see them, you could easily move that layer by yourself, or you could do a object arrange and move to bring to front. And it's going to go ahead and move the layer to the top of that group. So if you couldn't see those icons, now you can. All right, let's go ahead and hide that phone content. And let's command click so we can see, or control click that phone content, and now you can see those icons. Let's do a Control S and save. And make sure you deselect. So with that selection tool, we're going to go ahead and reorder some layers and some content. So we're going to play with this section up here for the navigation. So with our selection tool, we're going to go across the artboard and drag across this header content. So when we did that, we actually grabbed a few other things in addition, which we didn't necessarily have. So let's go ahead and take a look at the disclosure triangle on phone body. So if you don't have it open, make sure you open it. And let's go ahead and see the content. You see we've got quite a few different things in here that we don't necessarily want. So we want to remove some of these elements. So what we're going to do is shift click on the rectangle right here to get rid of that one, and shift click on this outer one as well. So now my header only consists of those top elements, and I'm not grabbing those. So that shift click makes it a lot easier for you to make sure that you're not grabbing all those other things as well. And I can tell here my rectangle's missing, not here. So I can double check, make sure what's in that group. All right, so let me go ahead and got all three of those selected. Now I'm going to go ahead and all right, we're going to go ahead and leave that selected. And we're going to go ahead and move that into the navigation layer. So let's go ahead and grab the top selector button and move it here into navigation. So it's going to go ahead and grab all 3 of those layers at once. So let's go ahead and look at navigation. And you should have the rectangle, you should have that and that. So it's all just right, just the way you want it to be. So let's grab that selection tool and grab some of those other items on the artboard. So let's grab the image and let's go ahead and shift drag it over here. Let's just go ahead and drag it over to our element. And now you can tell that our image is kind of over top of our navigation, which we don't necessarily want. So we'll go ahead and fix that here in a minute. So let's go ahead and grab that phone content layer down below the navigation layer. So let's go up here to our phone content. Go ahead and shrink all these down and grab the whole layer and move it down underneath navigation. Now if I do it right there where it's blue, it's going to put it in navigation. I want it under. So now I should have a situation where my navigation is on top and my phone content. Somehow my image is in my phone content. Let's go ahead and make sure that image, let's grab that and move it up into your phone content instead. All right, so we've got that. Image is in our phone content. All right, so now we want to go ahead and phone content is below navigation. We are awesome. All right, let's do a Control S and save what we've got so far. All right, so now we're going to lock and hide layers. So let's go ahead and click on the image on the artboard. And if we click on the artboard, we can go ahead and just locate object. And it's going to go ahead and show us where we are, where it is in the layer. So we want to go ahead and hide just that one thing. So let's go to Object and hide Selection. Now let's see. It's hidden. We can't see it. And you can tell the eyeball has been turned off here, so we can't accidentally grab that element. So let's go ahead and where are we at? All right, so now we're going to go ahead and Option or Alt click the eye icon to the left of the body to hide all the others. So I'm going to Alt and my phone body. I'm going to hide the other elements except for what's on that phone body. So now we want to do something else. Let's go ahead and do a Command Y, which is going to go ahead and take me into that preview mode. And you're going to see that we've got some additional elements here that we need to move to another layer. So we've got these kind of selection indicators. Let's grab our selection tool and select those guys. We want to go ahead and grab that layer, and we're going to go ahead and move it up into our phone content layer. So let's go ahead and grab our blue and grab it and put it over here in our phone content layer. So now we're not seeing it because that layer is hidden. So let's go ahead and do a Command Y to Control Y to exit that mode, and let's do a Show All Layers. So let's go to our hamburger menu and Show All Layers toward the bottom, and we're going to be able to see everything. All right, let's go ahead and click on that empty lock column and lock all the navigation layer elements so we can't accidentally move any of those. So now if we try and click on the Kicks app, we can't get it because it is locked. So if you're trying to grab something, you can't, make sure you're looking at that element as well. Let's go ahead and cut this one into another piece so that we can continue with part 2.